suspect's vehicle became disabled in a snowbank. The suspect then exited his vehicle and approached officers. The officers attempted to take him into custody, and he fled. The officers pursued. Catasauqua PD deployed a taser without effect. At that time, the suspect turned and engaged Catasauqua PD while holding a large knife. He engaged the Catasauqua PD officer. He stabbed him multiple times, and at that point, officers from both the Pennsylvania State Police and Catasauqua PD discharged their service weapons in an attempt to stop the action. This action resulted in the death of the actor, who has been identified as Jerome D. Nichols, 42 years old. Since that time, we have been engaged in an investigation in conjunction with the Lehigh County District Attorney's Office, Whitehall Township PD, Catasauqua PD, and Allentown PD. The investigation is continuing. The officers who discharged their weapons have, as policy dictates, been placed on administrative duty until the investigation is complete. I'll now turn it over to Lehigh County District Attorney James Moore.
Thank you, Captain. Good afternoon, everyone. First, I certainly want to join with what Captain Tobin indicated about the officer from Catasauqua and the lady who was the victim of the assault that started this process and that we're here about today. Fortunately, they are both very likely to recover, and we thank God for that. The incident that's been referred to, I think, has been very well put by Captain Tobin. I was at the scene this morning. I've had an opportunity to review videotape of the incident taken from the Pennsylvania State Police patrol vehicle. And while it is preliminary and while there is an investigation yet to be completed, I can say with a high degree of assurance on a preliminary basis that the shooting incident that involved both the Catasauqua police officer and Pennsylvania State Police trooper appears to be certainly justified under the circumstances that I've now seen on videotape. I want to commend and compliment the agencies that were involved here, Whitehall Police Department, Catasauqua Police Department, Allentown Police Department, which has been of great assistance both at the scene this morning and throughout. And there will be a parallel investigation completed by the Pennsylvania State Police. They will be the lead investigating agency, both from an internal affairs standpoint, which is customary whenever you have an officer involved shooting, and the criminal investigation. And when those reports are made available to me, I will review them and issue a final ruling. Thank you.
We'll take a few questions. If you could identify yourself and also to whom you want to address your question. Sir.
Captain Bruce Gordon with Fox 29 in Philadelphia. We noticed at the Main Street address there appears to be a screen in the front lawn snowbank and an upstairs window that's open. Was this an actual invasion through a window, or did he come through the door? Do we know how that all came about?
I will give that to Whitehall Township, being that they are handling that aspect.
Can we get you over to the microphone each case? Thank you.
Would you say your name again, sir?
Lieutenant Michael Marks. In regards to your question, the window appears it was pushed out by the victim. She was trying to call for help as our officers responded to the scene.
So he actually came through the front door, it's believed?
I'm not quite sure which, at what point it came into the house or where it came into the house at this stage in our investigation.
And just to clarify, it is our understanding that this was a relationship that had ended recently, a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship that had ended recently?
We're looking into that at the moment, yes.
Well, neighbors had told us that indeed had gone on for about 2 years, that they had lived together as a couple. They had a rather fractious background, and the police had been called there a number of times. Can you confirm that? That would be your police department, wouldn't it?
I can't confirm that at this time, no.
You can't say whether or not you've had domestic calls?
I can't confirm that we've been there, no, sir.
But the victim knew Mr. Nichols, correct?
Yes.
Was she the one in the relationship with him?
She was in a prior relationship, yes.
Okay.
and that it ended several weeks ago?
That I don't know. We're still investigating that aspect of this.
Spell his last name, Nichols?
Yes, sir.
And he's from Catasauqua, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Understand that this is an ongoing investigation. Obviously, we still are collecting a lot of information, so therefore, if we can't release it to you, you can understand why it is still under investigation.
Was Mr. Nichols known to police?
That is still under investigation, sir.
Chief Kish, can you step to the microphone? I know you met with your officer this morning, I guess both before and after surgery, sort of describe his frame of mind and how he's doing, how he's feeling.
He's in a good frame of mind. He had some surgery to control some bleeding, but I spoke with him afterwards. I was at his room, and he's in good spirits and expected to make a full recovery.
Your feeling as a chief and a law enforcer when you have something like this with one of your men?
It's absolutely one of my first concerns for him and his family, and also for the other officers involved. It's a traumatic experience, no matter which way you're involved in it.
And where your guys had come across him on Ray Street, was that where he lived, or that just happened to be where they spotted the SUV?
That's where he lived, in that area.
How many times was the officer stabbed?
I don't know exactly.
Anybody know?
Multiple.
Was he wearing a bulletproof vest?
Yes.
Can you release his name, the officer's name?
No.
Can you tell us how long he's been a veteran?
I'm sorry?
How long has he been serving?
He's been a police officer for 5 years.
Do you know, we had understood from Mr. Nichols' uncle, or actually from a fellow who Mr. Nichols had lived with for a while some years back, that he had in fact had some issues with violence with women in the past and had in fact been in prison before. Do your officers know anything about his background?
That I couldn't tell you, no.
Did your officers have experience with him?
I'm sorry?
Did your officers have experience with him prior?
It wasn't a name that popped out right in front of me. Anything else?
I guess, Jim, you mentioned that from what you'd seen from the dashboard cameras, preliminarily things look justified. What are the sorts of things you want to sort of satisfy beyond the video that were followed procedurally?
To be very frank with you, not much. And it's pretty clear to me that the officer was under attack with a large knife. He was stabbed multiple times. Certainly under those circumstances, the force that was utilized is, in my opinion, justifiable.
And just so we're clear, it was both Pennsylvania State Police and the stabbed officer who fired upon Mr. Nichols, or?
It was not the stabbed officer, it was another Catasauqua police officer.
And State
And
Police.
state police.
How many officers total?
Well, there were multiple officers arriving at the scene as it progressed, but the initial pursuit was given by the Catasauqua officer who was stabbed, and by another, by the Pennsylvania State Police trooper who arrived close behind the Catasauqua officer.
So how many officers opened fire?
2.
And you mentioned you used a taser. Did that have any type of effect on Mr. Nichols?
It was not effective.
Is the victim's name Jacqueline Livingu?
We're not going to identify the victim at this point.
Can you say how old she is?
Do you really expect me to comment on a woman's age, man? I think she's 50.
Again, you're treating this though as a home invasion, not as a domestic dispute.
It was a home invasion. Based on the investigation up to this point, at least my information, is that this couple, while once having a relationship, had ended it. It was ended at least several weeks ago, and I think it's fair to say that we believe that the entry to the home of the stabbing victim, female stabbing victim, was non-consensual.
Jim, it appears as though the victim's car may have been vandalized with paint or some sort of epoxy, and the tires slashed out behind her house. Do any of the other jurisdictions know if that was?
I'll have to defer to Whitehall on that. I don't know.
Our officers that responded this morning did observe damage to the victim's car. Through the investigation, hope to detail that. Maybe it was caused by the suspect, but we can't state that at this time.
How many people were in the home at the time of the invasion?
2.
The woman and a child of hers, or?
Teenage son, is that?
Teenage son, who did not witness this, to the best of our knowledge.
Can you describe the knife, what type of knife it was?
It was a big carving knife.
Like a kitchen knife?
It was a kitchen knife.
Kitchen knife.
All right, folks, we'll also be putting out a public information release for you as well. Thank you all for coming.
Cap, are you gonna release a photograph of the suspect?
Negative.
Just having our case. Thank you.
Captain Brian is Y or I?
Aye.
I, B-R-I-A.
You're right.